And now it's time for us to discuss more of these headlines and simple keywords. Adam joining us via Zoom. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, Lena. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Rainy Tuesday. Is it raining today?
Yeah, it's kind of hazy and drizzling, but again, what I saw on digital was so much worse. It's perfectly fine.
I guess it pales in comparison. I certainly did see
really
the images.
did. I've never been like part of the news, if you will, like, the news that I reported on, but it was something else.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate experience, I guess it was for you in Churchill Island getting stranded, I guess.
I got out.
But you managed to get out. Yeah. Good. But it's not a good thing to go through.
No, nothing was pleasant about it. But today it's also expected to be really rainy. But again, be safe on the roads, everyone, and keep your weather updates handy. All right, let's get started. As we've alluded to, President Yoon will be marking his 2-year in office. And of course, more importantly, he wants to perhaps share with the public what are his plans for the remaining 3. There's an upcoming press conference on that. Our first keyword of the day.
2-year press conference.
So President Yoon will hold a press conference this Thursday to set out the direction for his future policies over the next 3 years. What can we expect?
Right, so this press conference will be Yoon's first since his 100-day office review in August 2022. Will happen at 10 a.m. in the briefing room of the presidential office. Now, Yoon will actually start with a video presentation outlining his government's past 2 years of policies and introduce plans for the next 3 years. After the video, he will enter the briefing room and have a Q&A with reporters. He also aims to address criticisms about the lack of communication with the press. In November 2022, if you remember, the presidential office halted what was known as Yoon's morning doorstepping sessions. That was after kind of an altercation between an NBC reporter and a presidential aide. Yoon has also avoided customary presidential New Year's press conferences for 2 years now. He instead opted for interviews with a conservative newspaper and an interview with public broadcaster KBS earlier this year as well. He did take a few questions from journalists last month, though, when he announced his new Chief of Staff and Senior Secretary for Political Affairs. Now, there are no specific topics or time limits set for the Q&A session, but it is planned to be about an hour long, not including the initial presentation. He is expected to touch on a range of issues, of course, including some sticky issues, including a bill railroaded by the opposition Democratic Party mandating a special counsel investigation into the military's response to a Marine's death last year. All eyes are also on Yoon's remarks over the controversy surrounding himself and his wife, Kim Gun-hee, as well as the recent general election loss in April. The conference is part of an effort to improve how the administration communicates and to regain public trust, illustrating Yoon's intent to show a more approachable and transparent governance style. Now, reactions were mixed among political parties, as you'd expect, regarding the planned press conference. The People Power Party expressed hope that the press conference would mark the beginning of restoring a communicative government. On the other hand, the opposition pressed Yoon to accept the special probe bills once more. So there's going to be a lot more mixed reactions after the press conference as well, but we're already seeing kind of differences before it actually happens as well.
All right, that's coming up on Thursday. We'll wait and see what the president has to say. And I guess all eyes are on the Q&A session. It hasn't happened in a long time with the journalists. Could we expect contention? It usually does become that no matter where you're in the world. Will we get some sufficient answers? We'll wait and see.
Yeah, one of the reasons why that morning doorstepping session was kind of halted was, yes, the altercation between the embassy reporter and a presidential office official, but also kind of worries that President Yoon had a bit of a slip of the tongue every now and again, and the presidential office kind of thought the need that he needed to kind of step away a little bit so that he doesn't say anything too risky or dangerous or damaging to him or the government. So we'll have to see how the Q&A session goes. Certainly a lot of eyes are on it.
A different perspective might be the president is not a career politician by any traits, is he? It takes a certain level of, I guess, composure and editing, if you will, to give out some vague answers. That's expected of the president no matter where you go in the world, in case you inadvertently step into murky waters. But President Yoon is definitely much more direct, and he tried to be straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, he was a prosecutor after all, so he was
We forgot. In the 2 years' time, we forgot.
Yeah, he was kind of meant to be the Switzerland of politics, but yes, now he is a politician. We'll have to see how he handles it.
All right. I mean, that's just to help some of our foreign listeners understand context, if you will, in case you forgot. Let's move on to our second keyword this morning. The foreign minister's trip to Beijing is being finalized as we speak. Given the current global political climate, it comes at a timely, timely time.
Yes, timely time.
An appropriate time. But what's to be ironed out? That's probably the bigger question. Our second keyword of the day.
FM tour to Beijing.
So Korea and China are set to be in the final stage of talks to set up Foreign Minister Cho Tae-il's visit to Beijing. What's the latest on this front, Adam?
Yeah, eyes are on this as well. Anticipated trip by Cho Tae-il to Beijing, especially after the Yoon administration has been cozying up to the US and China has been feeling somewhat left out. And so Korea is trying to assure them that they aren't. Now, the South Korean embassy in China says final adjustments are being made on the schedule and agenda in cooperation with Chinese diplomatic authorities. Now, Chou's Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi, extended the invitation during a phone call in February. I am just going to ignore that chime, by the way. We'll carry on.
Our listeners are probably thinking, did they not hear it?
Yeah.
We heard it.
Yes, but yes, it would mark the first such visit by a Korean foreign minister to Beijing in 6.5 years. So it's been a while. Now, the discussions are said to be focusing on advancing the relationship between Korea and China, as well as high-level exchanges, cooperation on supply chains, and issues of mutual concern, such as North Korea. Both parties are preparing for close cooperation on these topics, as you'd imagine. Now, the two nations are planning to arrange the visit before the upcoming trilateral summit that's scheduled, that's including Japan, scheduled for May 26th in Seoul. Cho has previously said that Korea's relationship with China is equally as important as its relationship with the US. He has also expressed his commitment to exploring ways to maintain a harmonious relationship between the two countries. Now, the last face-to-face meeting between the foreign ministers of Korea and China took place at the foreign ministers meeting in Busan last November. During the last visit of a Korean foreign minister to Beijing in 2017, then Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa and Wang agreed on cooperation for the stable management of the Korean Peninsula amid North Korea's provocations. So, yes, well, a lot of anticipated eyes on this upcoming meeting of Cho Tae-il to Beijing. We'll have to see what comes out of it.
It's a first in 6 years. All right, we'll wait and see. Let's move on to our third keyword of the day.
Cutting investment.
So Indonesia has proposed to cut its share of payments for a joint fighter jet development project with South Korea to about 1/3 of the originally agreed amount, citing insufficient budget. Tell us more.
Yeah, there's a bit of sketchiness surrounding this, according to the Korean government officials and other sources as well. This is coming out from Yonhap News, citing defense industry sources. Instead, Jakarta suggested it would only accept a limited level of technology transfer for the KF-21 fighter jet. The latest revelation has sparked concerns about the deal that was once hailed as a symbol of the partnership between the two countries, and it seems to be in a bit of jeopardy at the moment. Now, according to the sources, Indonesian military officials recently presented this proposal to their Korean counterparts at the Defense Acquisition Program Administration. A DAPA official said they are in the final stage of negotiations with the Indonesian counterpart on the method of sharing costs for the project. However, the official neither confirmed nor denied the specific details of the proposal. Now, in 2016, Jakarta agreed to bear 20% of the KF-21 development costs, which was about 1.7 trillion won, although it was later reduced to 1.6 trillion by 2026. Now, in return, Indonesia would receive 48 planes manufactured there for the Indonesian Air Force, along with technology transfers. But cost-sharing problems have emerged as Indonesia had only paid approximately 300 billion won so far because apparently they had financial difficulties. It had requested last year, actually, that the deadline for the payment also be extended by 8 years as well. But Jakarta also proposed making in-kind payments using palm oil, but the Korean government refused because mass production of the KF-21 is set to begin this year. And the Korean government wants the aircraft to enter service in 2026. Of course, that is when full payment needs to be made, and they don't really want a delay in that. A Korean government official said discussions are ongoing, however, regarding Indonesia's revised proposal, and that the matter is under review. Now, accepting the proposal would require Seoul to shoulder an additional 1 trillion won, which could further fuel doubts and concerns among the public regarding the defense partnership with Indonesia. Now, fueling those concerns and a bit of skepticism regarding the defense partnership was an incident in January, actually, when Korea Aerospace Industries, which developed the KF-21, caught Indonesian employees deployed to Korea trying to take multiple USB flash drives containing confidential data from its manufacturing plant. And there are also questions about its financial difficulties because Indonesia had actually bought a lot of military assets from other countries as well. So the questions are, if they have enough money to buy that, then why not the KF-21, the shared cost of it? So, yeah, it's a bit of a controversial matter at hand.
All right, we'll leave it there for now so we can move on to our fourth keyword of the day.
Contentious minutes.
So, dispute between the government and the medical community over medical school expansion and related meeting records continues as a court decision on the matter approaches rather quickly. What's the latest, Adam?
Right, so while the Health Ministry intends to submit minutes from the Health and Medical Policy Deliberative Committee, or Bojeongsim, as it's abbreviated in Korean, where a decision was made to increase medical school quotas by 2,000, the medical community remains skeptical. The Seoul High Court has asked for documents including the scientific basis for the quota increase and meeting records by Friday. This is something we reported on yesterday. Now, as this deadline nears, doubts about the actual existence of this minutes have surfaced. Now, the ministry has refuted claims that these records do not exist, asserting that they will comply with the court's request. Now, despite the ministry's assurances that the records exist and will be submitted, the medical community expresses distrust, questioning where these records are coming from, especially since the details of the committee meetings for quota allocation haven't been transparent. Medical professors are also skeptical, questioning the source of the minutes the ministry plans to submit, and pointing out the lack of transparency as well in disclosing the members and records of the committee meetings responsible for the quota allocation. They are also demanding that the government acknowledge procedural illegalities in the process of increasing medical school quotas, saying there are a bit of irregularities in the process, as well as retracting all administrative actions related to it and to penalize responsible officials. Now, further complicating matters, a lawsuit is planned against ministry officials, including the health minister, for allegedly failing to keep necessary records during deliberations on the expansion. Now, if it is proven that the records were intentionally destroyed, it would constitute, of course, concealment or destruction of public documents, of course, of which there could be detrimental consequences. Now, the deadlock in the dispute between the government and the medical community, from the existence of minutes to the discussions therein, shows no signs of resolution. Many anticipate that the situation will only be resolved once the court release documents become public, so the public has a chance to see whether the government's claims are true or not. Now, professors also plan to thoroughly verify the government's submitted documents as well. The ministry will decide whether to make the meeting records public based on the court's decision, but they are continuing to emphasize that all required records will be submitted as per legal obligations and that they do indeed exist.
All right. I guess we do have time for our last story. All right. We'll control time with the song, so you don't have to rap through it. I know you feel obliged to do that. Our final keyword of the day.
Ceasefire deal accepted.
So Hamas says it has accepted a Gaza ceasefire proposal from Egypt and Qatar. However, Israel says the proposal falls short of its demand and has begun striking targets in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. So Israel did order a partial evacuation of the region yesterday. The ceasefire proposal from Qatar and Egypt, it may have passed through, but it doesn't really satisfy both ends.
Right, so yeah, it's still a stalemate continues,
Right.
but a senior Hamas official said that although it had accepted the proposal, they were still waiting for Israel's response. So, of course, it's not finalized. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said the proposed deal did not meet Israel's demands and it would send a delegation to meet with negotiators. So they're not outright rejecting it. They're still willing to engage in talks. Now, the basis of the deal is a weeks-long pause in fighting and the release of several dozen hostages held by Hamas. The proposal reportedly includes a three-stage truce. In the first stage, indirect negotiations through mediators would resume on the exchange of captives and prisoners. A withdrawal of some Israeli troops from certain areas would also take place as well. In the second phase, there would be a complete and permanent halt to military activity in Gaza. The final phase would focus on beginning reconstruction in post-war Gaza, overseen by Egypt, Qatar, and UN agencies. And each phase would last 42 days. The U.S. State Department spokesman Matt Miller told reporters that the U.S. was reviewing Hamas's response and discussing it with partners. So there you have it. Hamas is willing to accept the proposal. Israel, not so much. We'll have to see if there are any further talks. But full details of the proposal are still unclear at the moment. So we'll have to see. It'll be a while.
Thank you very much, Adam, for today's coverage. We'll speak to you again tomorrow.
You're very welcome. See you tomorrow.
If you're listening to our program using the podcast service, just a reminder that we do go live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Korea Standard Time. So tune in and help us make the show more informative by giving us your input. See you bright and early on Good Morning Seoul.